Assalamu alaikum. You are listening to the Professional Muslim Women podcast, a place for working Muslim women to share their stories, struggles, triumphs, and lessons learned along the way in pursuit of their careers. Being a Muslim woman who wants to advance her career without compromising her faith or values can be challenging. We know these systems were never designed for us, but that doesn't mean we can't be strategic in thriving in them as we advance our careers. In this season of the podcast, we'll continue to bring you inspirational, trailblazing, successful, and fulfilled professional Muslim women to you. We'll be introducing a mentoring segment where we answer your burning career and life goals questions. We'll also be featuring the Taking Up Space course, the foundational career strategy course of our sponsor, the Defiance Academy. Tune in to the Professional Muslim Women podcast with me, your host, Dr. Qali Hussain, trauma surgeon, wife, mom of 6, CEO, and keynote speaker for deep dives on all things career and life goals. Keep an ear out for the occasional surprise visits from our sister and friend of the show, Dr. Hani Ahmed, hospitalist, mom, and physician leader. On this podcast, we keep it brutally honest and tackle the taboo so you can be better prepared. Get ready to be inspired and learn how you can be strategic in forging your own path as well.
Assalamu alaikum, Qali.
Walaikum salam, honey. How are you?
I'm good, and I am so excited to be speaking with you after such a long time. It's been a long time, hasn't it?
Yes, it has. Me too. I missed you.
I missed you too. I missed you so much. And just life before COVID, I really missed that life too. We've had a lot of changes, but I am so excited to be back for season 2, right?
Season 2. Finally. What has it been, like 2 years?
Yes, it's been a little bit.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Amazing how much can change in a couple of years. But this is really exciting. I know that we've both had people reach out to us and say, what is the plan for the podcast moving forward? And we've had a lot of changes in our lives. And I am just so happy that we're able to continue with the Professional Muslim Women podcast in some form. So this is all your effort and your engagement. And I know you've been doing a ton of work uplifting the voices of Muslim women. So kudos to you, Qali. I'm really excited to hear about what you have in store.
Thank you. Yes. Inshallah, we will be restarting and revamping the Professional Muslim Women podcast. It's been a long journey, and we're going to get into the details of what we're going to do with it. But first, let's catch you guys up on what's been happening, actually. So,
yeah,
Penny, what have you been up to? Because I know I'm busy, but girl, you have been on a journey.
Yes, I have been. It's been busy, and so have you. My gosh, where do I start? But Ali, I think, the biggest change is understanding that life changes, right? And that's okay, that, your priorities can change. You can't do everything. And that's the one thing I preach constantly. I'm like, choose the things that you can do really well, because you can't do everything. And nor should we be expected to, But alhamdulillah, there's going to be good days. There's going to be bad days. We've had, in our personal lives, we continue to raise and grow our kids and, try to give them a community with all of the values that we share. And, dealing with some health scares, and alhamdulillah for good health. There's nothing like going through a health situation that makes you realize in your family that health is really the most important aspect, right, of life. I mean, health is wealth. There is truth to that. Yep. So alhamdulillah, work has been busy. I continue to, see patients. I continue to be hospitalist mainly. I've also gotten into leadership the last couple of years. So that's been a really nice change. And I've definitely taken advantage of some of the lessons that, you've learned and imparted along your journey. But alhamdulillah, it's been really fun. I feel like I'm at a stage in my career where it feels fulfilling to be doing things on a larger scale. And that's what leadership has provided for me. That's been just feeling like a student again and learning what it's like to manage teams, to think about change management and getting through people through change. Because Lord knows that there's one major stress on the healthcare system. It's COVID. And it's really brought out, all of the fault lines that existed in healthcare. And we realized you know what I mean? How flawed our system is really shows up when resources are tested. And we've got a lot of flaws. So I think as a nation, we've got a lot of work to do. And on a smaller scale, in my hospital, in my role in leadership, it's been really great. I've done some work around diversity, equity, and inclusion for the system, met a lot of people in this arena, and it's been fulfilling in its own way. And I've also been doing leadership courses and kind of taking on a more of a leadership role just within my group and managing our team. So that's been fulfilling in its own role as well. So Alhamdulillah, continue to wear many hats.
Yes.
You know,
we love to hear it.
Yeah. And I think women are natural leaders to begin with, because you're managing, you know, your life, your career, your household, your kids, your
Exactly.
You don't even realize it, but you're already practicing leadership skills and management skills and change management through just all of the things that, you know, you're managing in your home. And then you kind of apply that at work and assert yourself and deal with new challenges. And along the way, you learn some things about yourself as well. So alhamdulillah, it has been quite the journey, and it continues.
That is so amazing. That's absolutely amazing. I'm so excited, and I'm really happy that you talked about this journey. It's so fantastic, because that's, you know, one of those rare things that we don't talk about leadership. You know, we don't talk about advancing and career growth. And when I heard you, you know, you were doing these different things, I was so excited. I was like, yes, go ahead.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much, Avaya. Thank you.
I know you represent Annie.
Yeah. Right. I mean, you don't think about it, but that is key. That is key. You know, I'll be honest. I didn't even think that I wanted to be in leadership. Like, I thought I reached the pinnacle of my journey. Here I was taking care of patients, and I was putting all my energy into that. And that's what I wanted to do. And it is a fulfilling career. Alhamdulillah.
And let me ask you a question. Like, you just made a really, really good point. Like, you thought you were at the pinnacle of your career. You never thought of yourself as a leader.
That's right.
Or someone who's capable of being in a leadership position after you've done all this work.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
Oh my God, such a good question. And one I have grappled with, Abayo. And, you know, I think there's a long and a short version of it, but the short version is I just didn't see myself there. Maybe I didn't see representation of someone like me there. Perhaps it's related to how I was like raised, you know, as a child and the expectations set for me. But no, I did not see myself there. I didn't see myself there. I think that's what it comes down to it. And it did take being invited in. You know, I have some great leaders, and I had this opportunity handed to me in a way because, you know, people recognize that I had a certain talent, and they said, we think you would be good in this. Have you considered this? And that was the first time that I considered potentially being in a different position, you know?
Yeah. So you had not just mentors, you had sponsors.
Yeah.
You had someone who saw an opportunity and not just mentored you in how to do it. You had someone say, hey, I think you would be good in this, and kind of guided you through that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's amazing, because my experience with leadership, like getting into it, has been different, right? Like, because I always like look ahead. I'm a planner. I like to plan things. Like, what am I doing in the next 5 years, in the next 10 years?
You're future oriented.
I should learn to live in the present.
That's another podcast episode, I think. But yes.
Yes, it is. It is. But so I remember sitting with a chief medical officer at one of the first hospitals I was working at. And I've been there for like 2 years. By this time, I think I kind of worked myself into being like the ICU director. I created the position and blah, blah, blah. And then I was like, okay, what comes after this? And I had this conversation with him, and I was like, how do I continue to, you know, grow in leadership? And he just looked at me kind of weird, like, why are you asking that? What do you think you want to do? Like, this was it, right? That I couldn't envision myself being in a higher leadership position than just an ICU director. And that's what really, you know, got me into this whole idea of how we look at mentorship and sponsorship and career strategy and growth, which we'll get to in a little bit. But I'm really glad to hear you say that, because you had somebody else kind of pushing you towards that, but you never saw yourself in that situation.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I bet there's a lot of people in my position, you know, who feel the same way and who have untapped potential because of that.
Exactly. Yeah. I think there are a lot of people that are like that, who just don't see themselves as leadership material because they were never mentored in that way. They were never raised that way. They were never raised or even trained to look at themselves as leaders. Because when you think of leadership, right, who do you picture? Who are the people who take up all these leadership positions?
Mm-hmm. I mean, statistics show that they're male and they tend to.
They're male
right?
and
They
they're
tend
white.
to be, yes, exactly. They tend to be male and they tend to be white. And we are all conditioned in that same environment, to our own detriment, which we don't realize. But you make such a good point in my life. I didn't even ask myself these questions until after I was doing something different. I thought, how come I never, considered or applied for or was, quote unquote, interested. It's very, very easy to tell yourself you're not interested in leadership when you haven't had the chance to explore it. So, yeah, wow. I know we're going to get into this, and I am really excited to hear about it. I know you've been thinking a lot about leadership, and you have a different journey. And I think it really speaks to your unique mind, Tali, which I really appreciate so much, how you question, you question things, you question the way we do things, right? When it's easy to kind of fall in line and say, hey, this is how it is, right? And I love that questioning attitude. I've been trying to implement that in my life as well. So let's switch gears a little bit and I think this is the perfect time to talk about your journey. What have you been up to?
Where do I start? It's been very busy. So I think last we talked, I had already moved to Arizona. So we relocated from Florida to Arizona. I joined a new practice, which is fantastic. I love my new job. The kids at first didn't like the Arizona heat, but they got accustomed and now are swimming every day and enjoying their summer. And at work, it's been great. I picked up new skills. I started doing robotic surgery now, which is awesome. And
cool.
Yes, it is so exciting. Oh my God. And then I learned cutting edge stuff. Like we do hip fixations. And so I'm doing like orthopedic surgeries. And so from a work standpoint, it's fantastic. Alhamdulillah. And on the side, I know we haven't been doing the podcast, but I've really been thinking about this whole, career journey. And it started off with the whole conversations that we were having on the podcast about how we navigate these workplaces, how we are basically, just programmed to think of our journey in a certain way, right?
Right.
We're kind of raised and educated and trained to think of ourselves as being lucky to have opportunities, being lucky to be admitted, being lucky to be given an opportunity, and that we should be grateful, right? And if we aspire to do anything more, right? It's like, oh, you want more? Like, why? You should be happy. You should be grateful to have a seat at the table. But if you dare to look beyond that, then you're just asking for too much. And so I've been thinking of that journey, and I've been doing, speeches and workshops on, how to navigate difficult situations in the workplace. And I kind of looked back and I said, that's not enough, right? I don't think it's enough for us to just manage through. I don't think it's enough for us to just maneuver through these hostile work environments and just be grateful for scraps. I have this vision of something bigger. And so in thinking about this and figuring out, what exactly does that mean? How do we approach this differently? I've actually created a career strategy that I've been thinking about for, I think, close to like 3 years now.
Wow,
I've done like different workshops on the different aspects of it, but I actually ended up putting the whole thing together. And because one, I don't think we can just go through this career journey without planning, without strategy. Right? You don't go into a job without appropriate training, right? You go to college, you get further training, and then you're ready for the job. But nothing prepares you for your career. And the pattern that I've noticed is, and it's happening in medicine right now, where we are not taught to deal with the hostile and toxic work environment that is medicine, the racism, the sexism, the discrimination, all those things, the work hour regulations and how people just violate your rights all over the place. Nobody ever prepares you for that. And then you're set into this training mode. And then by the time you're an early career physician, there's like all these coaching opportunities and people in, teaching you how to stand up for yourself, how to advocate for yourself as an attending, how to work on your promotion. And I'm like, what if we started this journey earlier? What if you didn't have to go through the trauma of going to these institutions that are hostile? What if you were prepared early on and you knew how to navigate these places strategically and you knew exactly what you needed to get, and then you had a trajectory in where you wanted your career to go instead of fumbling through the whole thing? Because that's like, if I had something like that, oh my God, I think my journey would have been so much more tolerable.
Wow.
Right? So I found a company called Defiance Academy. And in the Defiance Academy, it's been my workshops and talks that I've been giving these past few years, but I've consolidated all of that into what I now call the Defiant career strategy. And the Defiant career strategy is basically everything you're told, but the opposite. It's counterintuitive to everything we're told, right? So within the Defiant career strategy, the foundation is a course that I just released called Taking Up Space. And this foundational course, what it does is it undoes everything that we're told, right? The myth of meritocracy, like the fact that it takes only merit to advance when we know that that's not the case. Right? Merit only gets you so far. There's bias and discrimination everywhere, right? When you understand that, you can navigate, these situations a little bit better. Feedback. People don't know how to give feedback. They've never been taught how to give feedback, and they give terrible feedback. And this feedback impacts people's decisions, the most important decisions that they make. They make it based on inappropriate feedback that they don't know what to do with, right? And so that derails a lot of careers. So we go through all of that. So Taking Up Space is the foundational course. Then we go on to a career growth phase where the space that you took up, you dominate that space. How do you grow and thrive, right? We're not just talking about surviving. We're going to change complete mindset. We don't want to just survive in these places. We need to thrive. So how do we work on our career growth and dominate that space? And then at the top of this system is the leadership and legacy. I want us to start thinking about our leadership and legacy early in our careers, right? So once you've gone through the foundation and you have career growth, you can look at your career and say, you know what, where do I ultimately want my career to go? Right? You're always proactive and looking forward. And you can say, and this is where you own that space, right? You take it up, you dominate it, and then you own that space. And then you can say, you know what, I want to be a leader within my field. And how do I work towards that? Or I want to take what I learned within my field and go create something completely my own, right? And create a legacy for me and my family, right? By being an entrepreneur with the skills that you have. Nobody ever teaches us that. Nobody ever, has us thinking in that way. So with this strategy, I want us to completely change the way we think about our careers, right? We don't want just a seat at the table. That's not enough. I don't want to be invited. I don't want to be included, right? I don't want to be, the token person. I want us to look forward and say, you know what? I want a defiant career. And I want to see myself in a leadership role within the field. Or if I don't want to stay within the field, I want to take the skills that I have, what I've learned, what I've, spent all these years creating and learning, and I want to go create something for myself.
Wow. I love it. I remember being a resident and experiencing all of the things that you said, that survival mode. I can't think of a more difficult period of my life than my first year of residency training.
And that's exactly it. I see all these, women in medicine, women in STEM, women in this, women in that. And if you look at who it's geared towards women who've already gone through the most vulnerable, the most difficult parts of their training, right? All these coaching and programming and career growth and career development and how to navigate these things are geared towards people already at the top of the ladder. The people who can't even get on the ladder, the people who are being pushed off the ladder, there is nothing made for them, right? If I needed help when I was an intern. I needed help when I was a surgery resident being pushed out. As an attending who has more power, who can negotiate, who can say, you know what, I quit this job. I'm going to go move to another state. My kids are not baggage. They walk. We can go on a plane.
I'm going to open my own practice and, be independent of a boss.
Exactly. All these, women I have nothing against women in medicine conferences, but the target audience is people who've already made it, but they're still in that training mindset. So they need that help with the professional development and things like that. But if we start this process early, and that's my goal with this, like my target audience isn't women who are already, for the career growth and the leadership and legacy, definitely, once you're later on in your career and you want to find a way to, either advance or go into leadership positions, yes, but we have to start with building the foundation early so we can avoid the trauma of having to go through and learning all of this as you're going through your schooling or your training.
Yes. So this is what you do, what you would recommend in the Taking Up Space course.
Yes. That's what I've spent the last 2 years actually creating.
Mm-hmm.
So when we weren't podcasting, this is what I was working on. And I was teaching it live before the pandemic. I think I was teaching portions of it. And then after the pandemic, I've been doing workshops online, Zoom conferences and things like that. And, the feedback has been, some of my students are pre-med. Some of them are already in med school. Some of them are not even in medicine. They're in other STEM fields. And it changes the mindset of, I should be happy and whatever I'm experiencing is just the way things are, right? It gives you the power that you already have. It just forces you to acknowledge that power and do something with it. Like you don't have to accept these situations just because that's how things are.
Yeah. Wow.
Right? If we did, nothing would change. If we accepted things for the way they are, nothing would change.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right on. Mashallah.
So this course basically just gives you the tools to make the changes that you need for yourself, because I'm a big believer in the fact that as well-meaning as these institutions are, as well-meaning as, these different DEI programs are, and I know you're a leader in the DEI field, which is fantastic, and I'm really, really glad we have, people who look like us fighting from within. I think there also needs to be external pressure, and I think change is better accomplished when you have people who are able to advocate for themselves and verbalize what it is that they need.
Right.
And I think that's one of the biggest problems that I've seen in the students that I've worked with is they know what they want, but they're afraid to verbalize it because of fear of retaliation. So, we go through scenarios and we say, okay, this is how you approach it in a professional manner, right? This is how you avoid retaliation. And this is how you protect yourself if you're at risk of retaliation.
Right. So important. So important.
Yeah.
Especially in institutions. Yeah, institutions are, I think about medicine, it's such a hierarchy, right? And it's such a cutthroat, competitive space that you almost are conditioned to set aside your needs and set aside when you are being treated in an unjust way, just to retain your, as you say, your seat at the table. So you end up sacrificing and giving so much of yourself, and you're absolutely correct that a lot of us go through the self-discovery journey later on when we've had a little bit of power and we understand ourselves more as we get older. But during that very vulnerable period of time, like I wish I had an advisor who would tell me these things. I remember seeking out mentors myself and, doing that work myself and kind of getting to those conclusions in a difficult way through like personal, just dealing with it personally. But to be able to get, to understand what that trek is going to be like before I even undergo it and understand, how just changing my mindset can help me be more thick-skinned in that kind of environment and understand my rights and, all of these things, it would be so valuable. So I'm so happy that you put together this course, Fali. I'm really grateful that you are creating something for, for those of us who don't get things created for us, We're never the target audience, so it's wonderful that you are doing that.
We never are. And the idea kind of got sparked in me. I was invited to a women in medicine conference. It was a lot of women and it was a very diverse group of women. And so I was like, okay, this got potential. There are a few residents and medical students, but it was majority faculty. And so I'm looking through the list of topics and we're mainly discussing gaps in awards being granted, gaps in salary, gaps in promotion. And then so I stood up and asked a question. I'm like, okay, I understand these are all wonderful things, but what about the issues of the real issues that affect people that have little to no power. What about, residents being discriminated against? What about pregnancy discrimination? What about racism? What about student or medical students and residents being dismissed unfairly? How do we address that? And, from this perspective.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And not a single speaker, not a single participant in, some of the panels that I was involved in, not a single person had an answer for that. And they're like, oh, that's tough. Yeah, I know it's tough, but we're here to solve, tough issues. And then afterwards, because I asked it publicly, I had so many people come up to me and say, thank you for asking that. I wanted to ask that, but I was afraid. And there are a lot of really early career women and underrepresented folks who go to all these meetings seeking this specific help, but don't have anything available to them. They're not the target audience. Right. The target audience is people who are reaching for chair positions, people who are reaching to publish their 300th article or whatever. They're not the target audience, and their issues are not discussed. And they're not going to be discussed because the people who are organizing these issues probably haven't faced any of this themselves.
Right. Absolutely.
Right.
It really speaks to within intersectional circles, like whose issues are prioritized. There's something to that as well. Wow. Well, that is just really, really fantastic. Congratulations on putting together something that I know is dear and near to your heart, and inshallah will benefit a lot of young career people, kind of early in their careers, women and young girls who really need that message. And as we said, who aren't usually the target audience of, of career development courses. So really, really exciting to hear about that. Ali, why don't we kind of shift gears a little bit again and talk about what we expect the future of the podcast to look like, and what do we expect season 2 to look like?
Okay, so the podcast, I really wanted to restart it because I feel like we've made a really good connection with our audience. And we really appreciate you guys, if we haven't said so already. And I've been kind of watching over the past couple of years our record. And even though we have not been active for 2 years, there's still daily downloads in the hundreds.
Wow.
And so, yes, in the hundreds on a daily basis. And so it really caught me thinking, we started a conversation, and I think we really need to continue this conversation. And the course that I've created, the things that I've been working on, we address very much the same thing. And then on top of that, there's people seeking and looking for mentorship because there is just not enough of us to provide it. So what I wanted to do with this season of the podcast is a little different than we were doing before. So we'll continue to have the interviews. There will be less interviews. We'll continue to have the discussions that we were having before. And I'm going to let you, Hani, discuss your level of involvement and what it is that, you want to do. And then I'll continue with the rest.
Yeah. I totally envision jumping in from time to time so that we could have these discussions that a lot of people have benefited from. I'm so happy every time we get together and have one of these talks. So I think I'm going to be kind of sporadically involved, and I'm very, very excited with the direction that you're taking the podcast in, some of the additions that you're doing. Can you speak a little bit more to that?
Yes. So Hani is going to be jumping in and out. So most of the time it'll be me talking to you guys about certain issues or certain topics. And so a new segment that we've added because of the need for mentorship and all the questions that I get like 10 questions a day all over, social media platforms. And so I've created a form, and I'll provide the link, called Mentoring Moments. And so you submit your question, and I will answer that question and go into a deeper discussion on those segments. So we'll have a few of those segments called Mentoring Moments, where we answer those burning questions, because I have so many questions that are really, really good that a lot of people can benefit from. And so I've had so many one-on-one discussions that I feel like having it recorded on a podcast where it's available to more people is going to benefit the most people. So that's going to be a new segment.
That is awesome. So awesome. And can you repeat again how our listeners are going to get in contact or submit their questions?
So I created a form that we will link in the show notes, and it's a short, URL and you just click on it. You can put if you want to stay anonymous, or you can put your name on there, leave an email, and you put your question. You can submit as many questions as you want, and I will compile them and either answer one question at a time, or I'll do like topics and answer, several questions in the same topic. And then I'll also leave other ways to contact us. And I'm always on social media, so you guys can reach out there. But this is going to be the most efficient way for us to get those questions directly to the podcast.
Easy peasy, right in from the show notes on whatever podcast platform you're using.
Yep.
That is awesome. Anything else?
Yeah. And then I'll have certain guests from the Taking Up Space course come and share their experiences. And so we'll be featuring students and hearing from their experiences and going through the course and share, what nuggets they had to learn and how their careers or career trajectories taking off. And so I'm really excited about that as well.
Awesome. Fantastic. That is exciting. That is so exciting. I can't wait to listen in and, just hear the questions and see what is in store for us. I'm so excited about season 2. Thank you, Qari, for reviving the podcast and for all of your dedication to Muslim women and ensuring that they thrive, not survive, but thrive in their careers.
Thrive.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for always being supportive in this journey. And I'm so happy for you in your leadership journey. You're going to have to come and tell us all about it. Share your leadership journey and how you're rocking things.
For sure. I'll write down some pearls that I can share. Yeah. So good to connect again, Qari.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I love this conversation, and I'm really, really excited about the new direction that we're taking. And I can't wait to see how the podcast continues to grow and how much value we're able to provide our listeners. So we appreciate you. We appreciate you guys for tuning in. I wish you, Henny, the best of luck. And inshallah, we'll be hearing from you soon. So inshallah, we will keep rocking it.
We will, inshallah. Thank you to all of our listeners. We love you guys.
Thank you. Alaikum salam, guys. Thank you for tuning in to the Professional Muslim Women Podcast, a place for Muslim women to inspire and be inspired. Please join us on our Facebook group, Professional Muslim Women Podcast, to continue the conversation and connect with Muslim women like you. Thank you to our sponsor, Defiance Academy, and the Taking Up Space course. Be sure to check out the course at the link below. If you have any burning career and life goals questions, or you'd like to suggest topics for us to cover, submit them to the Mentoring Moments segment at the link below. And don't forget to subscribe to the podcast and drop us a like and a review. We'd love to hear from you. As always, may Allah guide us all on this journey. Stay blessed. Wa alaikum salam.